now.
See. Could you turn up the?
All right, so in front of you, you should all see voting senators only. You should see the attendance for Senate meeting number 7. I will leave it up for another 30 seconds or so, so cast your attendance. If you do not get a chance to vote on this, vote on the next motions, and that shall count as attendance as well. I believe we are ready to begin whenever you're ready, Greg.
All right. Yeah, I want to welcome everybody to our penultimate Senate meeting. And I'm really looking forward today because we have, no? Okay. Okay, there we go. All right. Good? Everybody hear me? All right. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to our panel discussion later today. I think it's going to really be informative, and we should be able to answer a lot of questions. And so thank you everyone for coming. Then we have other orders of business, of course, too. We'll get to those shortly. So Maria? That's not mine. That's just called.
Okay, everyone, welcome back. So I'm going to launch the iClicker to conduct quorum. Okay, so in front of you, you should have on your iClicker quorum for Senate meeting number 7. Select the campus which you represent: downtown Phoenix campus, A, B, Polytechnic, C, Tempe, D, West Valley campus. I'm going to leave it up for a few more seconds. 99 responses. This is voting members only. Stopping the poll. Okay, we're going to do a second to triangulate. Okay, so this is the pop quiz portion. In what year was Arizona State College renamed Arizona State University? And the options are A, 1958, B, 1960, C, 1968, or D, 1976. Voting members only, please select your vote. Stopping the poll. So ends with an A, right? It's 1958.
Yes.
And we do have quorum.
All right. All right, so I believe we are ready now to act on the minutes. So the minutes for our Senate meeting number 6, held on February 26th, 2024, have been posted. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Hearing none, the minutes are approved as posted. All right, so now. Okay. Place. Oh, okay, just, there we go. All right. Welcome to the penultimate Senate meeting of the year. And I'm really excited that we're having a panel discussion on AI at ASU at this meeting. We couldn't have done better than having Drs. Craig, Gonick, Jones, and Maynard providing different perspectives on the issues raised by AI. You'll note the order of the agenda is different this month, with the panel discussion occurring after all other business. This was done to maximize the amount of time we can devote to the panel discussion. We will also be approving revisions to the Constitution and bylaws today. I think the task force did an excellent job of not only making perfecting changes, but also making substantive changes that bring the Constitution and bylaws more in line with current academic realities. For example, it clearly defines membership in the Academic Assembly to include many part-time faculty. Finally, most of, or if not all of you, are aware of the bill HB 2735, currently being considered in the state legislature. Its intent is to end shared governance at the state universities in Arizona. It is important to note that we need to be careful when discussing a bill before the state legislature. As state employees, we are not allowed to lobby using state resources or as representatives of ASU. We can do anything we want as private citizens using our personal email accounts, but need to be circumspect in what we say when using ASU email. Now, what constitutes lobbying is a gray zone. However, I personally feel that when a legislation has a direct negative effect on a person, it is understandable and permissible for that person to express opposition, okay, unimpeded. However, calling on colleagues to take your position on that legislation is a much lighter shade of gray, okay? So basically, try to be careful in how you express yourself. You can certainly do so. We just want to be careful in wording. We are going to have a motion later in the meeting. The UAC has posted a position statement unanimously agreed upon, and what we're doing later is having a motion. We're going to ask you to support that position statement. Okay? Also want to mention that we were hoping to have the revisions and final adjustments to the grievance committee changes available today. We didn't get the approved changes until today, and so everything is good. We have the approval of the OGC. It looks good. We just are going to have them come up for vote next time, and they should be in place, plenty of time for next round of elections. Okay. All right. So I'll take questions now. Any questions from downtown?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. So now from Polly.
No questions from Polly.
Oh, thanks. Tempe.
Questions? There wasn't really anything to ask a question.
No. All right. Any questions from West?
Can you unmute?
It's a
No questions. Thanks, Greg.
Oh, thank you. Any online? Okay, very good. So with that, it is my pleasure to introduce Provost Gonzalez to give her update.
Thank you. And good afternoon, everybody. We have a packed agenda today and two topics that we want to get through. So I'm going to dispense with any other announcements, except that I have to just reflect on the fact that our Sun Devil student and debate team competed in the Regents Cup this weekend. Not only did we win in both categories of storytelling and Oxford-style debate, we won every position. I mean, it was basically, we were winners across the board. It was fantastic. And our students did an amazing job. Our coaches did an amazing job, and we just have a lot to be proud of. So that's a, something to celebrate. One thing, so what I'd like to do today is I want to introduce a topic that has been a discussion at these meetings previously. Let's get that slide up and going. And this is our ASU Sintana Alliance. I'd like to provide you a little understanding of what the ASU Sintana Alliance is, the questions that I know it raises for faculty, and the way we've been trying to address those questions. And I'm sure you'll have more today, and just gives us more opportunity to understand, how we can address the challenges or your questions so that we all understand how we're moving forward. So I have to start with as we talk about Sintana, I really need to start with our charter and then design aspirations. As you know, our charter really prioritizes as a core the access mission for ASU and our ability to reach students who have the ability and the desire to learn and to advance themselves in their lives, regardless of where they are and prior experiences and histories. We also know that we are doing this at the same time that we're promoting excellence in all we do, including educational excellence, excellence in research, and that we also want to serve our communities more effectively. This is not a small goal. This is a very, very ambitious goal. And it also reaches beyond our national borders to be part of our global mission. And as you see, our design aspirations also include engage globally. So why ASU Sintana is because it allows us to really serve that access mission on a broader scale than we would ever be able to achieve if we just as a single university tried to set out to do this on our own. So we formed this alliance and formed what is called a privately funded public benefit enterprise. So those are important words. The ASU Sintana Alliance is a public benefit enterprise, and it's headquartered here in Tempe, Arizona. It helps universities around the world increase their educational quality and scale. And the leaders of Sintana previously built a global university network of 1 million students on 200 campuses in 29 countries. So they understand about developing educational institutions at a global level. So we partnered with that organization to form ASU Sintana to work together to build a global network of universities tied to ASU, providing access to high quality educational opportunities to students around the world. And this network of universities is referred to as the ASU Sintana Alliance. Now we currently have developed partnerships with 3 different, what we call ACIs, ASU Sintana partners, and you can see all across the globe. The 21 current Alliance universities are listed off to the right. And we've been, as we typically do, we've sort of been in a design build mode, forming these alliances, understanding what it is that the universities are needing and wanting, how we can help them advance their own agenda, and then kind of understanding what the partnership can give to them. And I'll talk a little bit about how things have evolved, but they're continuing to evolve, as we learn more and more about how we can best serve these universities. The goal is to, by 2030, to have 65 universities in this global network of universities. We have, I'll say a couple of things about our experience when working with these universities. First, we're selecting universities that have a like-minded mission, where they really want to provide inclusive education to their population, to uplift their youth, and to really promote the economic development of their local and national agenda. We vet the universities very well, and we're not looking for top universities, but we're looking for very strong universities that are in that low to middle range where an uplift actually will benefit them. We're also selecting universities that are in regions of the country where it's beneficial to us in our service as a national service university to be in partnership to kind of advance the education at those universities. I've had the benefit of being able to visit several of our partner institutions, including the American University of Ukraine, before Russia had their very sudden attack, but also Egypt and other countries. And being in country with the people that you're working with is when you get what it's all about. Because these students are like our students. These students are excited about their future. They understand that there are opportunities and they want, broad access to careers. Their faculty also are dedicated faculty who really want to be able to also advance their own abilities. And so we do bring partner institutions to ASU and have an opportunity for the presidents of those universities and the lead academics and leaders of those universities to interact with our folks here at ASU. And it's actually an amazing thing that is being built by not just working one-on-one with these universities, but by creating this network of people who come together and really feel connected across those many countries in really wanting to advance the needs of their local population. So, and here's the American University of Ukraine story. We were asked, and this was a partnership between local industries in the Ukraine as well as the State Department, realizing that the quality of education in the Ukraine was not what they needed to be able to achieve their goals to strengthen themselves nationally. And so they decided to partner and build a brand new university, working with us to help inform how they might do that. So we broke ground on that campus in June of 2021. And actually you can't really see, but that's the ceremony where we all put our handprint in these tiles that now go up in the building at the school. You'll see I'm on the far right, the only woman in the picture, by the way. We then opened the campus in January of 2022, and then Russia invaded Ukraine in February of 2022. It's been a remarkable story to see classes nonetheless resumed in August of 2022, and just this past February, they held their first graduation ceremony amid a 2-year anniversary of the Russian invasion. The spirit and the persistence of these youth in this country has been amazing. They are so grateful for the opportunity that they have, and we're quite proud that we've been able to support those efforts. This is just one of many such stories, but this one, really strikes to the heart of what we're trying to do. So let me talk a little bit about when we are working with partners, what we're able to provide. So first of all, the Sintana experts who have partnered with us know about building universities, and so they provide a lot of know-how and support on the ground for those universities to figure, what is it they need to advance. Things even like they need to hire leaders, they need to structure their curriculum, they kind of need to set up a university in some case when it's a greenfield university. Other times they're existing universities. So they provide this know-how and support. They're also providing a digital platform that their students can use to access resources. And then because we have the great benefit of having built out so many digital assets ourselves as a university that's been online for a long period of time, they have access to what we call as a digital repository. I know there's a lot of questions about the repository, which is basically our digital assets from the courses that we offer that their faculty can draw from to be able to build their own curriculum and their own degrees. The other thing that we do is we provide opportunities for what we call global link, which is students might want to start their degree in their own country, but eventually come to ASU and finish up maybe their final year to have an international experience. So we're building opportunities for linking up with universities and bringing more international students to ASU. And you know, we are a destination of choice for international students across the globe. We're very proud of that and want to continue to do that. But until now, it's only privileged students in privileged families across the globe that are able to afford to come here. This is going to allow students who couldn't possibly come here for 4 years to maybe just come here for 1 year. So it's really broadening that access mission to more universities. And my team has been working, none of this is easy. My team has been working, and Jones knows this well because she heads up a team that's trying to do those articulations, because we want to protect the quality of everything that we're doing. So it's very important that we pay attention to those details. So what's in it for us is that it expands our global education portfolio. It diversifies our international student population. It also broadens our ability to do collaborations across the globe. So some of these sites have turned into wonderful opportunities for research. We've got a huge USAID project in Egypt that's building on both the educational assets that we're building there and some other work that's going on. And we see this continuing evolving of this international research to be something that all faculty at ASU now can have greater access to. We've also allowed opportunities for our ASU faculty who are interested to participate in something that we call co-lecturing, which is, you know, maybe spending time in those countries or working to kind of help directly teach some small content, not a whole course, so that they get more interaction with our faculty, which is something that they're very, very interested in. And ultimately, it allows us to achieve brand recognition as a global institution. And many, many major universities are really trying to expand what they're doing globally. So this allows us to do all of that. So what I would like to do, I've got the Office of Global Academic Initiatives, which is headed up by Julia Rosen, manages not just the Sintana Alliance, but many, many things that we do globally. So I'm going to have her describe how we're operating. And then we also stood up a new small office of global academic quality, because I started having a lot of the same questions you were having about, wait a minute, what does this mean? How can we ensure that the things in the repository are of the quality that we want, that we're putting up what we think we should be putting up, that the faculty know that the information is going into the repository? How do we really pay attention to those issues? So we stood up a new office, and Gemma Garcia is in charge of that. We're in early days of developing out our guidelines, but I think we're making some good progress. So they're going to report on what they've been doing. And then I know you have questions, and we're trying not to take up too much time because we have another great topic.
Okay, perfect. Well, good afternoon, everyone. As Provost Gonzalez said, I'm Julia Rosen, and I am the Vice President for Global Academic Initiatives, and we support all global activities within the academic enterprise. Next one. There we go. Perfect. As part of our support of global activities of the academic enterprise, we are the official liaison between ASU and Sintana. So we try to communicate and coordinate communications inbound and outbound in order to make this collaboration as productive as possible. Provost Gonzalez touched on the fact that we have very rigorous approval criteria for new institutions to join the ASU Sintana Alliance. So Sintana itself has a staff of more than 100 people all around the world. And so that staff looks and scouts for like-minded institutions. And these are institutions that are ambitious and are interested in transforming themselves and the regions in which they operate. So ASU vets these institutions. They come to campus, we get to know the principals and the universities much better. Then we also commission a third-party research firm, pull all that information together for ultimately Provost Gonzalez's and President Crow's approval. What distinguishes our partnerships with the ACIs, the ASU Santana institutions, and those other bilateral university relationships, of which we have hundreds, is the depth and the comprehensiveness of our partnership. And up here are just some of the ways in which we work with the ACIs. So we'll talk about the content repository a little bit later, but one thing that's very important for us is that we help stand up the English language capacity of students and professors in these universities. Part of it is because the students themselves want to be bilingual just to be more globally competitive in their local markets. But also, if ASU is going to be receiving students, we need to make sure that their English language proficiency is very high. Our faculty provide guest lectures and co-lectures in their courses. And also, faculty and staff members provide innovation talks for faculty of the global universities and staff at the global universities. Many of these universities are called Powered by ASU. And so that is a way in which our brand is being extended. So if you go to Lima, you'll see billboards all over the place that says UNW is tied up with ASU, the most innovative university in Estados Unidos, well, America. So that's a really powerful way for ASU to expand our footprint. We also provide webinars to ACI students, and again, these can be done by faculty or staff, and these typically are topics that are very signature to ASU, themes like entrepreneurship or sustainability. We encourage faculty collaborations between ASU and, of course, researchers from the ACIs. And as the provost mentioned, one of our most important objects here is to really create new pathways for students to come to ASU. And we do that through the articulated degree programs. And thank you to all the faculty and, of course, to Ann Jones's shop for making all that possible. In November, Provost Gonzalez sent out a note to all ASU faculty asking which ones wanted to be more globally engaged in general, and in particular, who wanted to be more globally engaged with the ASU Santana Alliance. And more than 200 people responded. Our office is meeting with them one by one to understand how best the ASU faculty's interests and competencies and talents can best be used as part of the Alliance. We already talked about guest lectures and the articulated pathways. So we have a new group of people. You see the picture with Provost Gonzalez in the gray jacket there. There she's standing next to 3 people that are global partner affiliate faculty. So these are people from the ASU Santana institutions from around the world, and they have been selected by their institutions and also ultimately approved by Provost Gonzalez and President Crow to be affiliate faculty, non-compensated, at ASU. So we spend a lot of time with them trying to make the right research and scholarly connections with ASU professors. Every year, we hold a conference that we call the ASU Santana Experience, the ACE conference in November, where hundreds of faculty members and staff members from the ACIs come to ASU. Just in this past year, we've impacted more than 80,000 students. So you saw earlier, we have about 240,000 students in the network, so we're hitting about a third of them. So they're impacted because of our content, they're impacted because of our English language courses, and 32 of those students from the American University of Kyiv are expected to graduate in May. And even more exciting, we think we have more than 100 students who are beginning their study at ASU in fall. And as the provost mentioned, for us, this is an important way to expand access to international students to an ASU education. Like in the undergraduate case, they might spend 3 years in their home institution, then come to ASU full immersion or online for their final year, and they get a degree from their home institution and a degree from ASU. So all of those degree articulations are made possible by you all and, of course, other colleagues in the provost's office. Oh, and I guess I should also mention that Santana has recently funded a research seed funding competition, and there were 15 projects selected, and of those, 7 of those include ASU researchers working with ACI research. The other ones are there to also increase the benefit of cross-network research collaborations. So with that, I will turn it over to my colleague Gemma Garcia, who is going to talk about global academic quality.
Thank you, Julia. I'm Gemma Garcia, Executive Director, Learning Technology, and also head of the team that Provost Gonzalez mentioned that has been recently formed called the Global Academic Quality Group. So as Provost Gonzalez mentioned, it's a fairly new team. She created this team in August 2022 and includes 2 people, myself and Joanna. Our job is to support ASU colleges and departments in matters related to the content repository. So our goal is to work with all of the academic units. We focus on academic quality relating to the use of the ASU coursework as part of the Global Link articulated degree pathway programs. We also review Centana's trainings for the ACI faculty and recommend adjustments. We are really focused on increasing engagement. Our team goal is to increase engagement with all of you in your academic areas. So just to give you an update on the work that we've been doing, our team and Julia's team met with colleges and schools last summer and fall to start that engagement, to share information, to answer questions. And we also asked that each school and college appoint a point of contact. And our team has been reaching out to that point of contact when a course is requested to be uploaded to the repository. I've also included, if the slide deck is being shared out afterwards, there's a link to the list of the point of contacts. So if you're interested in who your contact is, you can look at that list. And one of our goals for academic year, this upcoming academic year, is to increase that engagement with the unit contacts and have quarterly meetings to really share information, what's happening with the Centana, and then also answer any questions and concerns that are coming up within the academic unit. So really my team's goal is to engage with the academic units, address concerns, answer questions, and that's our primary goal, is to make sure that you all know what is happening and we address your questions. So I'm just going to go briefly over what the content repository is in case for those of you who are not familiar what the content repository is. So it currently hosts O courses and that are shared within the network. They're managed by Ed Plus, and there's with oversight of my team and also Julia's team. Training is required to access the content repository. So this includes ASU's guidelines on academic integrity, intellectual property, and branding. So ACI faculty and administration are not able to access the repository until they take this training. We work very closely with Centana as we're looking at that training, and we update that yearly. And just so everyone is clear, like, students do not have access to the repository. It's really only for the faculty and the administration. And then I did a screenshot here so you could kind of have an idea of what it looks like. It contains ASU degree program, major maps, academic O courses, English language courses, and continuing education and teaching resources. This is a screenshot of the web interface. The content, it lives in Canvas, so if you were to click on a link, it would take you to Canvas. But this is what the interface looks like. We are currently working on a redesign, but this is what it currently looks like. So we conduct surveys yearly to ask the ACI faculty how they are using the repository. How's the content? How are they using it? And based on a survey that we conducted in May 2023, we had about 257 ACI faculty respond. We asked what our components are perceived as valuable. 94% responded instructional materials, textbook articles, slide presentations, and videos. 88% responded syllabi, and 88% responded learning objectives. And then we asked, how are you using the content repository? 93% responded expanding or deepening an existing course. 85% to see what other learning technologies are being used at ASU in a course. And then 82% search for new ideas to add to existing degree programs. So really it looks, based on the survey response, the ACI faculty are really looking at ASU #1 innovation to get ideas and how are ASU faculty leveraging technology to teach courses and to deliver material. And then translation, as Provost Gonzalez mentioned, we're working with institutions all over the world. We asked, are you translating the content? And the response was 28% reported translating something from the content repository, and the results, survey and learning objectives were the most translated items. So on this slide, I have our contact information, and then also I wanted to just share that we have created a FAQ for academic units. We are constantly working with Julie and her team to update these questions as we work with the academic units and the points of contact. If we're seeing, questions coming up repeatedly, we are constantly updating that FAQ, which all of you have access to. Okay, it doesn't want to go to the next slide, but that's my presentation, and we were just going to open it up for any questions that you might have.
Questions?
Are there any questions from? Are there any questions from downtown?
I think we have a lot of questions, but we need a moment. Could you cycle back to us perhaps?
Certainly. Questions from Polly?
I think likewise, we have a lot of questions. Anyone want to jump in here first?
I just
Yeah.
don't know whether to ask it.
Okay, I think, yeah, we're probably going to need to do one per campus. We can hopefully come back maybe again.
Only one.
Yeah, so I guess we'll go now to, okay, so Polly?
Okay, so I think starting here from Polly is, how do faculty know if materials from their classes, their classrooms have essentially been obtained by Sintana for use in this online program? With their knowledge, without their knowledge?
So we can pull a report. Your point of contact would have to request. We could pull a report and provide a list of courses that are in the repository.
So faculty don't know unless they ask. Also, where can we find a list of our point of contacts? No one here knows there are even point of contacts, it would seem.
I'm happy to share. I'm guessing the deck will be shared, and there's a link in that deck that will link to the list of point of contacts that you can. Then you'll be able to see who your contact is for your college or school.
Okay,
Okay, circle back to us.
Wait, I have a question.
okay, great. Tempe?
Yes, my name's Dan McCarville. I'm from the Fulton Schools of Engineering, and we're going to tag team.
And Tyler Durash, the School of Sustainability.
And so questions, we know that understand that Sintana and this process has been out for about 3 years now. I've had fellow faculty members tell me that they've been contacted by people that they had no idea this was out there. And so they've been receiving contacts and questions, because our emails are in these Canvas shells, or sometimes we put even other personal information in there so students can better reach us and so forth. So people are being requested for help on this, stuff like that. We understand current content includes, of course, the videos and so forth, but obviously personal information, exam question pools and things like that. The big deal is as I understand going forward, we're going to, our ASU, for example, the Fulton Schools of Engineering contact person I've already talked to them, and they're going to reach out to each individual faculty member to discuss what goes into the repository. But how do we clean up the current repositories, 3 years of them, that are being accessed today with that same information, and so forth? That was kind of the big question. And then
my completely unrelated question. What can you say about the financial model of this alliance, and what benefits derive from it, financial benefits, and how are those benefits distributed within ASU? And I'm especially interested to hear whether any of those benefits trickle back to those who create the content. Thanks.
The primary financial benefit is also the one that most meets our mission, which is bringing a new group of international students to ASU. I don't know, Provost Gonzalez, if you wanted to add anything, but that is the key financial element in this project.
Okay. Questions from West? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, this is addressing our social impact mission. And the way it is designed, the financial model is a kind of low-cost model to us for sharing our content in the repository. However, we do believe, and we see this is finally starting to happen, that there will be students who will opt to come to ASU and take classes at ASU. And then they will be counted as students the way we currently count students, and they will be international students, and they'll count in the way the international students. And then that funding will return to the colleges in exactly the same model that currently operates for when we bring international students to campus. So that financial model, it will kick in, but the other model is there's really not, it's not revenue generating to be shared, it's really social impact. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't know, I know you had questions about the engineering faculty who, of course, sorry, it wasn't clear what the question was.
No, the question is, how do we clean up the current repositories? Because they've been out for about 3 years and they've got our personal information, they've got our exam question pools, things like that that we just don't want out. How do we clean up the repositories so that they're for general use?
Well, I can.
Go ahead.
This is actually perhaps a complimentary comment to whatever Gemma might say, but I can say that it's absolutely true that ASU faculty will be contacted by Sintana staff and faculty as much as our office tries to be the liaison. As you know, you can't, they're in their university and they'll just see, oh, who's the best expert? Who's the most interesting person working in my field? So there are a lot of contacts that, despite our best efforts to be a liaison, just happen organically. And those are not from the content repository. That's just because they look on the web to see who are their same subject matter experts.
And I think for the cleaning, when you say cleaning up the courses, I mean, these are faculty who are vetted, and I would hope that they would not use your personal information. That information is not being shared out with students. So they're not, at least based off our surveys, they're not taking courses out of Canvas and then putting them in their LMS and teaching them as is. They're looking at your courses. They may use elements of the course, but they're not doing a direct download and upload to their LMS. And the majority of courses that the faculty and the ACIs are teaching are not online. There are some, I think they're going to be growing their online offerings, but currently the majority are in person. So obviously we all know that online courses have a different structure than the in-person courses, and some things just don't translate over to the immersion modality. And part of one of our goals as a team is to really increase that communication with academic areas. As we know, courses get redesigned, curriculum gets redesigned, and that's why we want to have the connection with all of the academic units to understand, like, if you're going through a curriculum redesign or if a course is being completely overhauled and redesigned, we want to work with you and upload, the most current version. We've had academic areas say, we're going to do a redesign in 2 months. Can we hold off uploading an older version when we know we're going to have a newer version that's completely redesigned? And so that's really, our team is here to work and have conversations about that, because we do want to have the best work in the repository.
But I was just meaning I know faculty are getting contacted now out of the blue and so forth by different people. I was just wondering, is there a way that we can, 3 years of repositories, can we clean it up? Can we just be told, these are the classes that are in there, and maybe have access to say, hey, remove these things and we'll call it a day? That's just a
I
question.
guess it
from me.
depends on what it is. I mean, we have to work at scale. So you can imagine, and I'm happy to have the conversation with your point of contact in engineering, which I believe is Scott Mahler.
Mhm.
Happy to have the conversation with engineering and kind of thinking through how we can do something like that. I know scaling would be difficult because you can imagine a team of 2 scaling that at a level of like at that percent. But I'm happy to have that conversation because maybe we can think of a way. We're looking to redesign the repository, and if there's things that we can think about and structures that we can place or framework we can place in the new update that would allow us to scale some of those changes. So I'm happy to have that conversation.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
okay, a question from West?
He has a question.
So my question was about the process of updating the course content, but based on your response, it looks like the faculty members are responsible for updating the online content, including video recorded lectures. So otherwise, the course content would not be updated or changed. And then the second question is, when the online session is going on, our ASU students can contact the faculty members about the specific questions related to the course materials. But for these Sintana repository content, if there are questions or even complaints about the specific course material, who is dealing with those queries?
So regarding updates, we are working on thinking about that process, and we're working on that as a team as we're like working with the points of contact, trying to figure out what's the best way to update the courses, knowing like we know that redesigns are constantly happening and we want to make sure we have the most updated course material. And so I think that we are going to work with the academic units individually because I know that it depends on the academic. I know all of you have work in very diverse ways. Regarding, what was the other second question?
I think the other thing, I think the other question had to do with if a faculty member at the ACI, I don't know whether they had a problem or a complaint or concern, what would their process be? And well, first of all, we've never marketed the content repositories plug and play. To Gemma's point, they are taking their online content for inspiration more than anything to teach their face-to-face students. But if there was something unusual or if they had some comment within the ACI, they would have their elevation steps and they would talk to Sintana and Sintana would talk to us. But I don't think that's ever happened.
And let me
Okay,
just
thank you.
clarify that students in these other universities will never come to believe that you are the instructor of record for any course that they're taking. They know that their instructor in their institution is teaching. They don't even know necessarily that person is drawing from ASU content. They're responsible for the course, and the students are having problems understanding or have questions that professor is responsible for dealing with that. I did have I'm not supposed to ask questions back, am I? But so I've heard this question about being contacted both ways, because I've heard on one hand, gosh, I'm surprised, I've been contacted. I don't think it's happened that much, but I've also heard I kind of wouldn't mind talking to the people who are using my materials and interacting with them. And so it's sort of just this issue of, I can look any of you up and see what you teach and get your contact information and, reach out to you, whatever country I'm in. But so this notion of, do we want to kind of no contact at all, or might we even be open to some of that? Again, we're designing this as we go, so I'm just interested in your thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? What?
Yeah, I have a question.
Online, oh,
I have a question.
Yeah, I think we can circle back.
okay, so is it downtown?
Thank you.
Circle back.
Okay. We're sorry, we had to check if we were off mute. Thank you for this. I think we've been chatting and it's really interesting that this is a delayed return on investment with the revenue and that the predominant impact is social. And so I'm wondering if there's any data metrics or outcome data that we could know about our work. How is it being cited? How is it being received? What is the impact of the content we are teaching? Is there a way to give back some individual data to the faculty. It'd be nice to know if across the world, if our content is hitting or not and how we might adapt it moving forward.
Thank you for your question. We conduct surveys yearly. I shared last year's survey, and we're constantly changing the format and the type of questions. We're happy to share that survey data with you yearly, so you know how our faculty using the content, what they find most valuable. And so that's has been our primary way of finding out how faculty are using the repository. Go ahead.
Is there a way to collect data on like number of, I don't want to say clicks, but how much traction is like the survey data is great, but do we have some aggregate data on just broad impact? And even where the information is going, that would be helpful, I think, too.
I think right now we have limited access to that information. We are working on a redesign of the repository, which will allow us, right now it's a very manual process to collect that data, and it's very time consuming because it's manual. But we are working on redesigning the repository that would allow on the back end for us to maybe potentially have a dashboard and other functionality that would allow us to access that type of data much quicker and less manual.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Question from online?
Yes, Senator Lopez, can you unmute?
Hi, everybody. My name's Gilbert Lopez in the School of Transborder Studies. My question is more about the research part of this. This is the first time I hear about this, and our school does a lot of, transborder work, especially in Mexico and in Latin America. Is there an official, pathway or process to begin a collaboration with one of these institutions? Is there opportunities for students, especially to bring students and do research with us? And you mentioned seed funding. Is this seed funding? How do we access this seed funding? Thank you.
On the FAQs for Santana is all of the information from my office, and there are some processes and procedures. And earlier, if we missed you, then we definitely want to we would definitely want my staff to meet with you and have kind of a one-on-one to understand your research interests. But yes, there's processes in place, and we welcome everybody who would like to engage.
Oh, thank you. So thank you so much for a very informative discussion of Santana. And I'm sure we'll be hearing more in the future. No, sorry. We'll be hearing more in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have our Senator Spotlight. And our senator this month is Senator Sanchez. And would you like to introduce yourself, Senator Sanchez? Tell us a little about yourself.
Hi, Cisco Sanchez from the School of Counseling and Psychology, Associate Professor, and also the Director of Undergraduate Training. Here in my second year, enjoying both learning how to be a director of a program as well as learning how the university functions. So thank you for having me as part of the Senate.
Okay, thank you. We now have an election announcement from David Burrell, the chair of the Committee on Committees.
Well, I guess I get applause too. Well, thank you all. I just want to basically take just a moment to say, if you haven't opened up your election ballots from this email from Greg Stone, you'll see in your email from last week. Please do. As senators, the very least we can do is all vote ourselves. But more broadly speaking, the important thing to do is if you haven't shared with your group, either via email or a meeting, a reminder to participate in the spring elections, please do so. They close on the 27th at 5 p.m. So there's still time to vote. And one of our overall goals every year is to try to get more and more participation. Sadly, overall, I don't have the exact numbers until after the election, but I'll check with Maria. Usually out of all the ballots sent out, only a very small, meager portion are returned. And I encourage you all to vote. We do, in fact, at several campuses have contested elections. One at least has 4 different candidates for it. So your vote can make a difference. And the more engagement we have, the easier it is for us to get candidates overall. So thank you. I just want to take this moment to say vote, and if you haven't done so, please do it now.
Well, thank you. We now have a report from Johanna Ururi Glover, who's the chair of the University Services and Facilities Committee. Johanna?
Okay. Yeah, our first, I had some slides. I don't know if they available. Okay, if you go to the next slide. So, for, RFC 249 ADA compliance for graduation and, convocation. The request was made for us to look at the Desert Financial Arena to see if it's safe and accessible for individuals with disabilities who attend graduation and convocation ceremonies. The requester noted that the ramp leading to the arena is too steep for powered operated wheelchairs to maneuver safely, and the ramp for graduates may be too narrow. So the committee met with a lot of people, the coordinator of accessibility compliance with the Capital Program Management Group, the executive director of the Office of University Events and Protocol and the Office of University Ceremonies, and the assistant director of sales of inclusive learning. And after that meeting, we requested a formal request from the Capital Program Management Group to go in and do assessment and look at what could be done to correct the problem. And they had to look at cost and the time to make those corrections. And so the next week we did a walkthrough to look at the actual site. So the action items we came up with were with the executive director of the Office of University Events and Protocol and the Office of University Ceremonies will include in the language when messaging to students regarding graduation and convocation ceremonies about the steepness of the ramps and the available accommodation. So we decided that the east entrance was safer for them, so they could go down that ramp because it wasn't as steep instead of entering in the west entrance. Also, they're examining single progression lines versus the double lines, which is very helpful during spring graduation because it's so many students that going up and down, but they will try to make accommodations if they have a student that has electric wheelchair. In terms of the marketing group, the coordinator of the accessibility and the Capital Program Management Group, they are investigating the following. The possibility of creating an accessible route from the parking lot to the arena's floor by building a modular ramp from the west entrance into the arena. Another option is to install a lift or a modular ramp on the stairs at the east side entrance. And we will, as a committee, will follow up before graduation to see if at least the immediate, the messaging is going out. And it's gonna take some time for the action items related to the Capital Program Management Group, but we're gonna keep an eye on them and follow up with them to see where they are and what kind of actions that they found that was more cost effective for the university to do. The next one was for parking. It was a request made for the reinstatement of the 30-day parking pass for individuals who mainly use alternative transportation as needed during the academic year. Formerly, the pass cost $5 per day. which is significantly lower than the current parking costs that we have, $16 to $20 per day. So we met with them and with the department, the director of commuter services, and they decided that they would not reinstate the program because of past abuse. And the abuses that we learned was that people would give their parking passes to other people to use. And so the next one is RFC 262. Subject is the campus transportation in between all the campuses. The student and faculty complaints arriving to campuses late for class, especially on the Polytech campus. So our committees are in the middle of investigating this, and what we were told that they hadn't any data on this, they hadn't had any complaints. And so we're asking for data for them to at least keep a record of what's going on with the transportation. So this is still open and we're still working on that. Okay, so the next one is routine use of QAC containing dangerous disinfectants at ASU. It was part of ASU's enhanced cleaning practices. And the concern is that it may, have a negative effect on the health of the staff and faculties and students due to the routine use of these dangerous disinfectant products. So we met with the program manager of the facilities administration and her team. And we learned that the university is using these products right now, but they're under contract. And so the contract will not be up for negotiation until the first of the year. And they plan to bring this to their attention to not have cleaning solutions that has this QAC in it. We plan to continue to follow up on this one also. And then the last one is we're working right on this week. The subject is Concord Travel, a path to creating a user-friendly interface. This week with their administrators. And so hopefully we'll come up with some ideas and interventions where we as faculty can be able to use this to travel in a timely manner.
Okay.
Thank you. Been busy.
It's
a lot of RFC.
Okay, well, thank you. And yeah, we are looking forward to some excellent resolutions to these problems, particularly the last one. And so with that, we move on now to unfinished business. We have no unfinished business, so we will move on to new business, beginning with first reads. First reads are to prepare you for motions we will be acting on in our next meeting. Please take time to review these important motions that will be coming up at our next Senate meeting. As a reminder, these items are for informational purposes only. Although senators may seek clarification, full discussion on our actions on these motions is reserved for our next meeting. We will now begin with first reads from CAPC Chair Claudia Sadowski-Smith. Claudia?
Hi, everyone. Thank you. We'll be meeting on April 24th, the last time this semester, and we'll discuss these 19 motions related to degrees and certificates, and they will return back to you in your last meeting in April, whenever that's going to be, before that time, I think. Okay, so since there are 19 of those, sorry about that, I would suggest to you, if there are no objections, that I'm not going to read them all out, but I'm just going to summarize them for you. All right, so hearing no objections, I'm just going to summarize. So we have 4 motions from the W.P. Carey School of Business, 4 motions from the Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College, 3 motions from the College of Global Futures, 2 motions from the College of Integrative Sciences and Arts, 2 motions from the Herberger Institute for Design and the Arts, 1 motion from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, 1 motion from the Watts College of Public Service and Community Solutions, 1 motion from the New College of Interdisciplinary Arts and Sciences, and 1 motion from the Office of the University Provost, which is for the establishment of a new school. So as always, if you have any questions or concerns, please contact me or Greg Stone, President Stone, before the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. We have an additional first read related to HB 2735, and I will turn it over to Phil.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you've all gotten the resolution that UAC put together as we try to deal with what is a politically contentious atmosphere in trying to make our opinion clear without provoking responses from the bear. So Pauline, you have a motion?
Yes, I move that we suspend the rules regarding the first reading of this resolution.
Thank you. So do we need a second? Yes, a second? Thank you. Okay, so let's take the vote.
Okay, voting members only. Do you agree to suspend the rules requiring a first read and treat Senate Motion 2024-90 as a second read to be acted upon today, March 25th, 2024? Please cast your vote. Ending the poll. The motion passes with 90 votes, 90%.
Very good, thank you. So we'll now move on to the motion itself, right? So, okay, so let me read our resolution. And again, this is a resolution, it's a statement of principles from the University Academic Council. And so the resolution is the Arizona legislature is currently considering HB 2735, which proposes to alter the nature of university governance by removing the traditional standard of shared governance. We believe such an action would be highly detrimental to the core functioning of the university and harmful to faculty, staff, and students, as well as the broader community statewide. We oppose any proposal that would diminish or obstruct this valuable tradition. Nearly all universities across the nation operate according to standards of shared governance. In essence, this decision-making that incorporates input from the governing board, the administration, president and leadership, and the faculty, thereby maximizing the benefit of the expertise inherent to each of these levels. It is grounded in transparency, whereby all parties have a measure of influence and input on matters affecting the university. We, the ASU Senate's statement on, as the ASU Senate statement on shared governance explains, shared governance establishes the ethos and structures that enable divergent ideas to be proposed or put on the table, debated for their merits, shaped for the larger good of the university community, and put to use in a timely manner. Shared governance is the keystone that enables the academic assembly and the administrative leadership to sustain and advance the university's mission, effectiveness, and reputation. A commitment to shared governance is essential to the advancement of the university's mission. At a minimum, shared governance leads to better decision-making, stronger collegiality, the construction and maintenance of relationships of trust and mutual accord. It sets for all to see an extensive example of democratic governance. It warrants that decisions are based on a vast array of cutting-edge knowledge and information, and ensures that policies and actions are based on long-term values rather than short-term goals. We reassert these values in this reasoning and strongly oppose HB 2735. Okay, so we need a,
Discussion.
any discussion? Anything from downtown?
We have nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything from Polly?
Nothing from Polly.
Thank you. Tempe, doesn't look like it. West?
Nothing from us, thanks, Greg.
Thank you. And online? No. Okay, so being no discussion, we now call the question. Vote. Vote.
Okay, here we go. So motion 2024-90 is now in front of you for a vote, and it reads, do you approve Senate Motion 2024-90, a position statement from the UAC opposing HB 2735? A for yes, B for no, or C to abstain? Ending the poll. The motion passes with 107 votes, 96%.
Great, thank you very much. We will now begin our second reads with new course proposals that were distributed via email on March 12th, 2024. These proposals will be handled in gross, meaning as a whole with one vote. Before we vote, does anyone wish to remove any of the new course proposals from the list for discussion? Downtown?
We're good. Thank you.
Thank you. Polly?
No comment here.
Nothing Tempe. Anything at West?
Thanks, Greg.
Okay, and online? No, okay. Okay, hearing none, we will now vote on these courses.
Okay, voting is open for new courses. Do you approve Senate Motion 2024-70 new course proposals in gross? A for yes, B for no, C to abstain. Ending the poll. Motion passes 105 votes, 95%.
Thank you. So motion 2024-70 new course proposals has passed. We now have second reads from the Curriculum and Academic Program Committee. These motions come from various units around campus. They were given a first read in the Senate and then sent to CAPC for their discussion and approval or not. The motions presented to you today were approved by CAPC and are now sent to you for your final approval. The motions will be read by CAPC Chair Claudia Sadowski-Smith. Claudia?
Okay, thankfully it's only 4. So I can read those for you. We did approve them as a committee on March 2021. And the motions are Motion 2024-621, request from the Graduate College for the establishment of a graduate degree, MAS in Advanced Studies. Motion 2024-631, request from the Erberger Institute for Design and the Arts, Dean's Office, for the transfer of a graduate degree, MS in Innovation and Venture Development, from Ira A. Fulton Schools of Engineering, Herberger Institute for Design and the Arts, and W.P. Carey School of Business to W.P. Carey School of Business and the Herberger Institute for Design and the Arts. Motion 2024-641, request from the College of Integrative Sciences and Arts and the Ira A. Fulton Schools of Engineering, School of Applied Professional Studies and the Polytechnic School for the establishment of an undergraduate degree, BS and user experience. And the last one, motion 2024-651. I'm sorry, I'm always reading a 1. It's actually 65. Sorry, need my eyes checked. Request from the Herberger Institute for Design and the Arts, School of Art for the establishment of an undergraduate degree, AA in Apparel Technical Design. Thank you. Just
Thank you,
scratched the one.
Claudia. Senators, these motions are being presented in gross, which means we will have only one vote. However, if you would like to remove any motion for discussion and independent voting, please make that request now. Hearing no requests, the motions are now available for vote.
Okay, CAPC motions in gross are in front of you. Do you approve of the CAPC motions in gross as it appears on the agenda on 3/25/2024? A for yes, B for no, C to abstain. Ending the poll. Motion passes with 104 votes, 95%.
Thank you. We now move on to the consideration of the constitutional bylaws and bylaw revision. And so I will turn it over to Phil Vandermeer, who headed the task force. Yes.
I've gone through this before. Let me just reiterate that every 4 years, we have to review the Constitution and look to see if there are any changes that need to be made. I'm the chair of the task force appointed by the president, and the other members representing all 4 campuses are Mary Burleson from West Valley, Chad Kennedy from Polytechnic, Toby Harper from Tempe, and Elisa Bienenstock from downtown. We met a bunch of times. We forwarded our proposals to the UAC. The UAC agreed, and you've seen the first read on this, and this is the second read. To reiterate, as I mentioned last time, there's 2 kinds of changes here. The first is perfecting, which basically is clearing up typographical errors, factual errors, grammatical errors, things like that. The second are substantive, aiming at improving Senate operations. As you've seen, there's lots of changes, and in order to try to manage this as efficiently as possible so that we're not here till 9 o'clock, we've devised a method here where we're basically going to be looking at each of these in gross. We'll go through the changes in order, allowing periodic opportunities for discussion on any of the particular motions, and then we'll have a vote on each of these. To try to simplify this a little further, we're going to start with the perfecting amendments. So we'll actually start with motion 2024-67, which is perfecting amendments to the Senate Constitution.
Are there any comments or discussion of these specification changes?
Well, we want to first start out with this.
Well, yeah, let's tell you what we're voting on first.
So, and for the most part, I'm just going to rely on the PowerPoint slide here rather than trying to read this. I think the PowerPoint slides are self-evident. You've already had this, and all of these perfecting changes are incredibly minor. So basically what we're looking at here is clarification of who we're talking about. Instead of representative body, we're talking about presidents and senators. And instead of university Senate membership, we're talking about the senators and president. The second is name changes. Whoops, did I hit that or did you? Okay. Second is name changes. Teaching professors is the new title that has been approved a while ago. And this is the appropriate, accurate title now for the Dean of the Graduate College. Whoops, I went the wrong way. There we go. Okay. So we've got 3 grammar word clarity changes: ensure instead of insure, Wording. You could all look through the words and see if there's other similar errors that we missed, but you can proofread something 25 times and then you see it in published form. And anyway, clearer style here regarding the requirement that you can't hold an administrative appointment for half-time in order to serve in the Senate. And then we delete the repetitive wording here about faculty. The other thing, of course, is not everybody is working on a 9-month contract. So this is a more accurate reflection of reality. This third element here has to do with the clarifying the wording. Just as you can see, it is literally grammar and a word change.
Any discussion of these changes? Hearing none, we will move on to the next.
Oh, we can vote on them.
Oh, we vote on them. Okay, great. So we'll vote on them.
Okay, so in front of you is motion 2024-67. These are the perfecting amendments to the Senate Constitution as described by Phil momentarily. So A for yes, B for no, C to abstain. Ending the poll. Oops, there we go. The motion passes with 102 votes, 96%.
Okay, so we now move on to perfecting amendments for the university bylaws. And if I can get the slide. I'm lost without my slides. And where am I pointing this? Whoops, jumping too fast. Over time, the names of committees and administrative officials change. And so we need to account for that. So you've got 3 changes here in terms of committee names. Next, we've got changes here in terms of 2 new committees. In terms, this has to do with determining the composition of the committees, and these 2 new committees fit into this category. Then there are 4 changes for committee membership, changing from non-tenure eligible to career track. And then you've got 3 changes that correct the titles for administrative officials. Whoops. What happened? Okay, comments?
Any discussion of these changes? It looks like we have some discussion at Tempe.
In question for where it says where you replaced a career track for non-tenure eligible, not all career faculty are career track. And I wondered if that applied to those changes. So for instance, instructors, for instance, are not career track.
They are.
They are? So we're calling everybody career track faculty?
Professionals are not.
Okay.
And in fact, we are hopefully soon to vote on tracks for instructors too, who will further reemphasize the idea of it being a track.
Sure. Great. Thank you. Any other discussion? No, hearing none, we will now vote.
Testing, okay. Senate Motion 2024-69, perfecting amendments to the Senate bylaws is now in front of you. Please vote. A for yes, B for no, C to abstain. Ending the poll. Motion passes with 101 votes, 94%.
Okay, thank you. So we move on to our next group.
So these are the substantive amendments to the Senate Constitution. We're not talking about earth-shaking things, but these are things which involve a shift in policy. The first one Okay. The first one, you'll recall that over the last several years, we've talked about defining membership in the Academic Assembly. And we've had a variety of different possibilities. So after discussion and with consultation with the General Counsel's office, we are proposing to define membership in the Academic Assembly as all those who are at least 50% FTE. This is apparently a better, more accurate term than something like benefits eligible, because there are various types of benefits and so forth. So this at least makes clear what that category is. Is there any discussion or question about this?
I'm hearing none. Move on.
Okay. Am I putting this in the right way? Okay. The second or the next measure here has to do with the chairs of, or with voting privileges here, ex officio voting members. And this proposes to delete the chairs of standing committees. Basically, this is less significant than it seems. Currently, what this allows is non-Senate members who may happen to be Senate committee chairs have full voting rights in the Senate. Historically, and I think with good cause, voting has been restricted to senators and officers. Committee chairs are supposed to be members of the Senate. All senators are supposed to be serving on committees. So this is only under exceptional circumstances that some committee chair would not be a senator. And under those circumstances, the person would have impact on the decisions of the committee, so input, but there isn't, we thought, good enough reason for that person to have impact on everything that the Senate votes on.
Any discussion, questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next.
This next one basically has to do with the Arizona Faculty's Council and the membership in the Arizona's Faculty Council. It's U of A, ASU, and NAU faculty leadership who speak on behalf of Arizona faculty to the Board of Regents. That group, that is to say, the faculty leaders, consulted and changed the bylaw membership this last year. And so this is basically bringing in that change in the definition of membership.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, we move to the next.
Okay, so now we've got three areas that have to do with the authority and functions of the Senate. And so there are expansions here, as you can see, online degree programs, academic partnership, courses offered through Learning Enterprise. That's basically updating the academic responsibilities of the Senate. Second, something you may all be sensitive to, this includes, under personnel affairs, threats to faculty. And finally, in terms of financial affairs, it adds retirement systems and merit raise policies. So those are all part of a category. Any questions on those?
Yeah, any questions, comments? Hearing none. We vote now.
The amendments to this article reflect two changes in the nature of the Senate. First of all, in 2010, the Senate acquired an executive director, our current holder over there. And the executive director began assuming responsibilities that made more sense as the Senate was growing. Secondly, we've got new, we're in an electronic records and electronic communications environment. And so this, the changes in this article reflect actually current practice as well as more appropriate record keeping. Any questions on this? Okay. This is another electronic records keeping vote here to allow meetings by electronically. Zoom, actually, you increase the chances that anybody's going to show up for these meetings. Having done this before, you're lucky even on Tempe if you get anybody to show up. So this actually expands participation possibilities. Any questions on this? And we're ready to vote.
Okay, so we are now ready to vote on these.
Okay, so these are, this is the motion 2024-66, which captures the substantive amendments to the Senate Constitution. And A for yes, B for no, or C to abstain. Okay, we're ending the poll. Motion passes 102 votes, 95%.
Good. So we now have substantive changes to the bylaws.
Okay, this basically changes the, is a partner to changing committee chairs from ex officio voting to ex officio non-voting. Any questions on this? Okay. Now we come to a really obscure passage. I personally think this was written in 1947. It has never been used. I can't conceive of a situation in which it might be used. And so it makes sense to simply delete it. Any questions on this? Okay. Did somebody say something? It was you. Okay. Now we turn to an item concerning the Committee on Committees, basically clarifying the responsibilities of that committee to ensure that all nominees for elective office are eligible, willing, and able to fulfill the duties of their office. Any questions on this? Hearing none? Was that the right one? I think I missed one. No. This is, again, a reflection of the reality that it's the executive director who is in daily charge of this, so that whenever there is any communication about the immediate problem with with an election, it is the executive director who deals with this and in consultation with the secretary. Any questions on this? Okay.
Okay, so take a vote on these final ones.
All right, everyone, last motion here. So motion 2024-68, this one approves the substantive amendments to the Senate bylaws. And as usual, A for yes, B for no, or C to abstain. Okay, ending the poll. Motion passes 99 votes, 94%.
Very good. Okay, so now, what? Yeah. So now, having eaten our vegetables and cleaned our plates, it's time for dessert. So my pleasure to introduce Scotty Craig and our committee on AI at ASU.
Hello, my fellow senators. I'm very excited to bring this panel to you today on the use of artificial intelligence here at Arizona State University. I'd like to go and invite the panelists to come up here. They're already doing that, which is great. I am Dr. Scotty Craig. I am the past president of the Polytechnic campus and a associate professor in human systems engineering. Now, I'm very excited to get, like I said, to actually bring this panel to you. Let me first give you a little bit of information on how we're going to run the panel today. I'm actually going to have a question for each of the panelists, primary question, and then the rest of the panelists can chime in. We're hoping to keep everything for around 5 or so minutes per question. We'll see how it goes. Some questions people may be very chatty about. So we'll see. After my set of questions are done, we would like to turn it over to you. So you can start thinking about questions you may have about generative AI here at ASU that you would like to ask to our panel. Now, that being said, I'd like to go on and get us started with the first question. But before I begin, I would like to thank my panelists. Thank you very much for joining us today, and I'm very excited to have you. Now, did you actually introduce the panelists? We did not. So I'm going to actually start by introducing our panelists, everybody, because I just realized they were not introduced. So our first panelist is Dr. Ann Jones, the Vice Provost for Undergraduate Education. Beside her, we have Lev Gornick, who is our Chief Information Officer here at ASU, and Dr. Andrew Maynard, who is a professor in the Global Futures Scientists and Scholars. What is your actual appointment?
I'm a professor in the School for the Future of Innovation in Society.
Thank you so much. And that was so useful. I'm actually going to come to you with the first question, Andrew. So can you actually start thinking about generative AI? Can you discuss like the potential for generative AI to actually impact education? Both from like, what should we do? What should we be thinking about? What should we be worrying about? What should we be doing to make it even more useful?
And you said just in a minute or so. So first thing I would say is it's so great to be here, but I'm also really interested in the questions from you, because this is such a fast moving area that I think that we probably don't have all the right questions pinned down. But just very briefly, in terms of potential positive impact and some of the things we need to be aware of, I think you'll all be aware that over the last 12 to 18 months, generative AI has just hit the ground running and transformed almost everything we touch, including what happens in the classroom and education. To understand how transformative this is, it's probably easiest to think of it as a tool, but a tool unlike anything else we've seen, certainly in the last 50 plus years. I'll probably go even further back. It's a tool where if you're an educator, it can potentially transform how you teach. But just as any tool can either be used well or not well, it's really up to you to decide what you're trying to achieve in the classroom and then see where the tool fits. I would also say that we have barely scratched the surface yet of how to use this suite of tools, because it's not just one tool. You're looking at AI generation of text, images, now shortly video, a whole range of things, and I would add code to that as well. So there's a need for creativity and imagination here. It's not only a tool, though, for educators, it's also a tool for learners, and that's obviously our students. And we're already seeing students be creative in how they're using this. And in many cases, they're using it very productively to enhance their own learning. But of course, there are those students that are looking to take shortcuts, and that comes to the third thing. And of course, if you go back 12 months, everybody was concerned about what happens when students start cheating using these tools, these generative AI tools. And I'm sure Anne will say a little bit about that. What I would say is we've been on a crash course as educators over the last 12 months in realizing that we have to face head on why students teach, why students cheat. Because what has happened with generative AI is it's actually revealed some of the flaws in how we approach education. And it's forcing us to realize that we sometimes have to rethink what we're trying to achieve with our students and the best way of achieving that without backing our students into a corner where they are forced to take shortcuts. And I'm sure we'll have a lot more discussion about pros and cons a little bit later.
Any other comments from the other panelists on that? I mean, feel free to discuss. Okay, then. Let's move on to our next question. So you had nothing to add to that, Anne, so I'll come to you. The next question, specifically thinking about policy. Can you talk to us about ASU's policies that have been set up around generative AI?
Yeah, thank you, Scotty. And I'll remind everyone, this panel was described as dessert. I say that as a vegetarian. I do like vegetables. Yeah, so to the question of policy, I like to think rather about what our vision is and what it is that we're trying to accomplish with students. And I'll pick up, I think, from where Andrew left off in saying we, everyone in the room, all our students, have access to an incredibly powerful suite of tools that we might or might not know how to use well. But as Andrew has pointed out, they are already being used in many fields, including scholarship, creative activity, industry. And we all know that as educators, it's our responsibility to teach students our fields and to prepare them to be successful in their careers. And it's with that dual function in mind that I think we approach our vision of how generative AI and AI more broadly should be approached as an opportunity by the university. It's an opportunity, as Andrew said, to think about how to train students for the academic disciplines and the careers that they will enter, where they, if, you know, many of us surely know people who don't work in universities and can tell you how they're using AI in their jobs already, right? I look to the language side of the room, I look to the computer science side of the room, I look to the arts side of the room. These are industries, journalism, where AI is already deeply embedded in the cultures of those disciplines and those careers. So that's one aspect of how we're thinking about what tools and opportunities to create for faculty and students to ensure we know how to use the tools, we are up to date, and we can teach students how to use those tools in the context of their disciplines. And then the other side of that coin is thinking about how we can use those technologies to change how we're teaching and our relationship to teaching, so that students can be more successful in their studies, right? How can we use the tools to achieve greater learning outcomes, to change what we are teaching to students, to change our relationship with how we approach our discipline and show it to students. And in that context, we also outline projects together with my colleague Lev to my left to think about what tools the university needs to be creating as well to support teaching students in new ways, and also assessing whether those tools and approaches are effective.
Anybody else have anything to add?
Well said.
Thank you. We'll go on to our third question, which is, Lev, this is for you. Again, along with the rest of the panel, if you'd like to add in, please do. What are some of the, right now, if people wanting to use, faculty are wanting to use generative AI here as part of teaching or part of their daily life as faculty, what are some of the generative AI related resources that we are offering for different faculty?
Yeah, thanks. Let me just pick up for where my colleague Anne just shared. This is a collaborative effort to be responsive, Scotty, to the questions that you've posed. ASU, I would just, for those who are interested and haven't yet found it, there are about 120,000 folks who have apparently. ai.asu.edu is a really good clearinghouse of all things, including the reaffirmation of existing policies, commentary with respect to resources, opportunities to take a look at insights with respect to syllabus development. There's also links to probably now well north of 100 stories reflecting some of the creative work of our faculty in the use of AI, links to webcasts and podcasts from people like Andrew, who are prolific in this space, and essentially aggregating all this as a bit of a portal into the world of AI. I would say that jointly together with the provost and under Anne's leadership, we've actually developed a sequence of classes, online classes that faculty, targeted primarily to faculty. Last week, or maybe it was 10 days ago, Anne shared with me that there were 1,700 of our faculty and staff who've taken one or more of the sequence of 8 courses. This was developed by the enterprise technology team, the team inside the provost office, and Ed Plus, to actually create, basically from I know nothing to I'm actually a fairly intermediate user. How else can I actually learn more about how to use these tools to advance mostly my teaching responsibilities that are out there. And just finally, I'll say that in terms of a resource, so our relationship with OpenAI, which is really just one of many, many things that are going on here, it's called a large language model for those who are not familiar. Actually, ASU today supports 16 large language models. By the end of next month, there will be 20. All of this is about how to discover how to leverage and use language models for what they are good at and to try to avoid some that are not so good at it. We put together an internal challenge grant that actually went out on February the 1st. On February the 9th, we closed it, and then a panel of academic peers, along with some of the staff from Ed Plus and Enterprise Technology, waded through about 179, I believe, was the final set of submissions in the first round. And we distributed actually just about 1,000 licenses to about 120 matches where the problem or the impact statement related to either a teaching outcome or to a research opportunity or to a service opportunity was seen to be a good match for the OpenAI piece of it. Many dozens of the others, there were actually better matches with other large language models than the one from OpenAI. And just today, we released the second round. Deans were informed Friday. Today, faculty were all informed. This particular round is open again to all faculty, all staff, and to students who are engaged in research activities with you. So an opportunity to actually now engage and reach out to the faculty community through the internal research grant. That's more or less targeted for the summertime to be working on this together over the summertime. But hopefully, Scott, that's some insights with respect to resources.
Thank you very much. That was actually very useful. And I know that like we have been actively working for the last year. If I switch hats very quickly from my role as the Director of Research for the Learning Engineering Institute, I know we've been working very closely with your group and with the Provost's office to create some of these. And it's been an amazing experience.
Yeah, and I've actually just to add, I mean, again, because it won't happen until next year, but together with LEI and the team in the Provost office, there's just an amazing folk fest, we called it, a future of learning community gathering. Again, this all seems to me like a blur, maybe it was 2 weeks ago now, over at the Omni, over 1,000 people registered for that event. So lots of opportunity to get to know the resources and also feel some of the feedback from faculty colleagues, from student colleagues actually, about their own lived experience working with the technology. All those stories, again, get aggregated at ai.asu.edu. It's kind of a one-stop shop.
Yes. And I'm actually very excited to hear that the number is actually up to, you said 1,700 faculty and staff that have actually used the training, AI training that we created.
That's right. And now there's a new staff offering that is also being put together by the same group of folks in the Provost office, in Ed+, actually with the Office of Human Resources as well, and our team in Enterprise Technology, to be targeted more for what staff support might do with respect to sort of the back office of the university. We're trying to look for efficiencies and other things that we can work on together.
And I'll offer a plug, since there are several people in the group in the room and perhaps online as well, that there is a project in the works to create a set of central resources for introducing the topic of AI usage with students. And that is expected to be available for use in the fall as part of an initiative to create AI literacy content and courses across all of our colleges.
And that's very exciting. And for those of you, my colleagues who have not actually looked up that course, I highly recommend it because it really does have information at all levels. If you can come in knowing absolutely nothing about generative AI, and you can learn the basics about how to use it, and it can also answer a lot of initial concerns that you may have. Because if you actually know how you could use it, you know how your students might use it, you know how better to pivot within your classes as needed to make your classes more effective. So again, thank you for that so much. Now, in the time that we have left, first, Anne, I'll go back to you. Are there any other resources that have not been brought up today, or things you know that you might want the faculty to know about as far as upcoming resources?
Yeah, I mean, I'll reiterate again that, we started by thinking about what do faculty need to get up to speed fast. And, sometimes people say to me, are you creating resources for undergraduates or graduates or faculty? There's a huge void in the space, right? All of us know faculty who have not even tried these tools yet. We know students who haven't tried the tools. And so we started with the faculty professional development course knowing there was an immediate need. As Lev said, that's now been expanded to working directly with HR in the staff space as well. But we also recognize a tremendous need for how to broach these topics with students. And we're looking for as many opportunities as possible to go beyond what I would call the early adopters, right? Because I think there's still quite a lot of experimentation and evaluation and creativity to exploit among our faculty to understand how this can be done effectively. Lev mentioned the AI challenge projects. I think it's important to point out that as a university, we have not thrown our lot in with only one model. As Lev highlighted, we actually have access to quite a lot of models on campus. And to some extent, that's because the technology is changing, but it's also because we are identifying what are good uses and which types of things you can do with different kinds of settings. And so I just want to encourage everyone to experiment in all kinds of settings. Even those who are skeptical, especially those who are skeptical, because I think you will find that there are opportunities within your discipline that you don't recognize at first blush. And it's really important that we all engage in the conversation.
Thank you. And I really want to reiterate one more time that please go to the ai.asu.edu. It has a lot of amazing resources on there for you. Including things like syllabus language. If you're wondering how should I include these in my syllabus, there's suggested syllabus language on there that you can think about to see if that fits for your class. Okay, so we are coming up on this structured part of the panel being over, but I want to give the panel, each person on the panel, one more chance. If you have one more thing you would like to tell your colleagues. Andrew, go ahead.
So I would build on what you said, Anne, about trying these systems. What we're finding, especially with text-based generative AI, is you can't really get a good sense of what it does, what it's about, what the limitations are until you started having conversations with it, and literally conversations, not just crafting the perfect prompt. So to me, that's always the starting point. It's the starting point when I speak to colleagues. It's the starting point when I speak to my students and walk them through how they understand the benefits and limitations of the systems.
Okay. Oh, yes. So now we're going to move on to the question portion, the open question portion of this panel. We are going to go around to each of the campuses. I'd like to initially restrict it to one question per campus for the first round to make sure that each campus gets a question. After that, we will open it up and we will go from campus to campus if there are multiple questions still remaining. That being said, I'll go on and say downtown in Tempe, go ahead and start organizing for your questions. And I would like to start, since I am the representing the Polytechnic campus, I'm going to play favorites and go to Polytechnic first for their question, which means West, you're second.
Go ahead. Yes, I have a question actually, particularly on the programs and trainings. Is there any way we could get access to a lot of these? Because some of the courses are actually paid courses. Is there any way we could get as faculty access to those and have like a coupon for them or something? It's like $150, $250 for some of these.
Which member of the panel are you addressing this question to?
Probably me.
It's for the scripting ChatGPT with Python. That would sound really interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to ask you to email what your wish is directly so I can look at who owns that. Anything that the provost's office owns, I can give you access to. But there are some courses offered not for credit via the Learning Enterprise that I believe include commercial content that it may be more difficult for me to get access for you.
Can I just add, Anne, I think the resources that are freely available to ASU faculty and staff are good. And it's very hard to see why you would want to pay $100 to $200 for something when we've got our own resources.
That is our hope, Andrew. I would also.
I gave you an opening there.
Yes,
You're supposed to.
And I would also say the space is moving very fast.
Yes.
I've seen a quote from you that your prompt engineering course is already out of date.
Oh, it was out of date as soon as we started.
And so that's another Chad thing to think about in terms of what you're willing to pay for. I actually think the free resources and your resourcefulness as a scholar using free things is going to get you a lot farther.
Thank you. Now let's move on to West, or West Valley, technically.
Question.
Questions?
What, I guess it might sound like an accusation, but I guess from an administrative point of view, perhaps like it seems a little strange that we're using Canvas, which seems very outdated when we're talking about these new tools. Is there any way that Canvas or any other platform is going to integrate more seamlessly with generative AI?
Yeah, just to build, I mean, just as a technical answer, the answer is it will continue to evolve and evolve very quickly. And you can expect all of your scholarship, your teaching and learning, all of the tools that you use, if they haven't already come out with their release 0.9 or 1.0 of how they're integrating AI, it's all coming. I mean, if you were, you know, if your scholarship involves the Elsevier's entire catalog, watch out. I mean, we've seen fantastic AI related tools that are in that in that category of things. Your software platforms like Canvas, there are all kinds of you know, new tools that are being introduced and integrated. A lot of the technologies that are used for your online classes will very quickly evolve there too. So just to underscore Andrew's point, very early on still in this journey together. I think you can guarantee, we can guarantee you that there will be AI everywhere. I think one of the challenges we have is to work with all of you to make sure that in addition to the idea of what do you graft onto a Canvas, you know, what journeys do we want to work on together to explore an AI native learning environment, as opposed to one which is how do I bolt on to something I already know, or do we not want to go there, or at least maybe not for the time being. Those are conversations that it's always good to solicit faculty feedback on.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Now let's move on to downtown. Any questions from downtown?
Thank you, Scotty. We have several, but we're going to start with Senator Young, who has a question about the technology.
Hi, Alex Young, Barrett Honors College. You know, I'm speaking from the place of, I think, a substantial segment of our faculty who feels we're moving recklessly fast into this arena. But my specific question today is about AI and climate change. Projections of the energy needed for this technology suggest that if we are to embrace it on the scale that our institution seems to be suggesting, we would blow through any possible way to address our clean energy goals. So how is ASU squaring its commitment to this new technology with our commitment to sustainability?
Very good question.
This is actually not the first time I've gotten that question. Those who were in the college senate last week know that I got it last week too. So hopefully, yeah. I'm a scientist. I'll just say that. My academic home is in chemistry, School of Molecular Sciences, where I actually work on interconversion between electrical and chemical energy. This is not a question that worries me, to be honest. The university is committed to sustainability. I think we've demonstrated that time and again. I think we've demonstrated that in our commitments, in our values, in our rankings, in all the outward measures that people use to think about commitment. I also think we're in a highly exploratory period with respect to this technology. It is true that it takes a lot of energy, a lot of computational power right now. We are also seeing the technology is rapidly changing. And any estimate of how much energy it's going to use in the medium to long term is wrong, to be quite blunt. And, you know, I think we've seen this in every technological innovation that has existed, right? Fuel cells that were developed for the space program are now used in entirely routine ways because of engineering. Going from science to engineering is a thing, and we do it regularly. We do it here at ASU. I'm looking at, you know, a scientist and an engineer sitting right next to each other. And I think we can expect that to happen in this space as well.
So Just to add my 2 cents to that, I'm actually not as optimistic as you are in terms of how we manage the energy consumption, which is significant at the moment. And with new computes coming online, it's going to get even bigger. But I also think we need to realize that this is a moment in time that is not just about generative AI and not just about learning and education and not just about ASU. This is a transformational point in human history. And we can't simply say we're going to opt out of this because the rest of the world will go on. And as a result of that, ASU, I would argue very strongly, has got a responsibility to be there in the fray and help direct things in a way which is actually going to be socially responsible, but certainly not opt out of the conversation.
Thank you. Now, any other comments to add to that before we move on from the panel?
Scotty, are we allowed to ask another question?
Not
Or
yet.
okay.
I will come
Okay.
back.
Didn't know if you were
Um,
still down here. Okay, thank you.
Now, we are finally coming back to our final campus, which we're now here at Tempe. We're here in person, so, and there's somebody waiting at the microphone. Please go ahead.
Hi, it's Eric Oberle, the School of Applied Professional Studies. Yeah, my question is really, how much are we thinking about telling students when to not use AI? Because I had a student who recently contacted me who I trained to use Socratic method to think about questions and the difficulty that's embedded as part of our teaching practice in asking questions. She's a resident at a major hospital, was in psychiatry, and found that people who were assistants were using ChatGPT to draft out prescriptions for conditions that they didn't understand. She was very troubled by this and asked me, well, how do you address a question like that, and how do you address the professional and ethical questions that are embedded in a question like that? I think one of the things to really emphasize is to not become cheerleaders for a technology that doesn't understand anything about what it's doing. It's using predictive models of language to try to make models that seem like they're intelligent, but they're not actually based upon understanding the underlying subject matter. So I'm concerned that the enthusiasm for AI and the I would just say the alacrity with which it answers questions that it really ought not to answer, it needs to be part of our educational process because the actual enterprise of the university itself is founded upon not answering questions too hastily that you don't actually know what's behind them. Thank you.
I'd actually like to answer this one. And I'd like to draw quickly on the work that we've done in basically developing a definition for what it means to be AI literate for use in developing materials with students. So we have a working group with representatives from all of the colleges in the university and academic professionals, and quite a large group, including instructional designers across Ed+, Enterprise Technology, and the Provost Office as well. And that definition, I actually think you'll be happy that definition and the learning outcomes we decided students really needed to have in any foundational AI literacy course include understanding what the models are, how they work, how they're trained, what they do. To your point, understanding they don't think, right? But what do they actually do? Being able to critically evaluate questions around ethics, regulations, security, biases, the quality of the output, and then being able to use the tool to generate relevant materials and outputs in the context of their discipline. So 3 spokes to really being literate. And each one being very important in the context, right? It's not that one is more important or less important than the others. And I think it's also important to point out that if we approach the challenge correctly, you actually have an opportunity to improve those kinds of skills in students. So I've been experimenting for the last academic year with groups of undergraduate students, thinking how do they approach critical thinking problems with the help of this tool, right? Which is an entirely new tool for me to present critical challenges to students that I couldn't before, right? You can be overt and say to them, you don't know whether it's true or not, right? How now do you approach this challenge? And generate materials faster and generate conversations. I think of the challenge from a teaching perspective as being, how do I change the relationship that I have or that students have from this being a really fancy search engine to an actual collaboration and a way of interacting with knowledge that's new and different. And that's what we hope these AI literacy courses across our disciplines will do for students.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for the. Oh.
What we're going to do is, because we're going late, what we want to do is we're going to take a moment to do open forum. I will adjourn officially the meeting, and then people can stick around if they would like for a continued discussion. This is why we moved it to the end of the meeting, was that we would be able to continue the discussion, anyone who wanted to. So is there anything from open forum? Yes, Tempe.
Hi, I'm Dana Tate. I'm a senator for English here on the Tempe campus. And I'm also part of the leadership for the Career Faculty Association. And we want to announce our upcoming meeting for April 12th at 3 p.m. on Zoom. Those details will be sent out. I'll have Maria send out that information to the other senators so that you can pass them on to your units. And we'll also have an announcement in the Insight coming up. So you can also look for that in the Insight.
Oh, thank you very much for sharing that. Yes. Any other open forum downtown?
Nothing from downtown. We're
Polly?
Nothing from Polly.
Okay. West? No. All right. Well, I officially conclude, and if you want to stick around, please feel free to do so.
Yeah. Oh, online.
There's an advantage to being in person.
Yep.